You've got a great life. You've got a beautiful family. You're so much in love. Move on. Get a life. Move on. And they just can't seem to, because their living is by telling their truth on the royal family. That's how they make their living.
I think Harry's a twat. Like, my life was so hard. Everybody's life is hard.
Yeah,
you were the prince of a
true.
goddamn country who dressed up as a Nazi, and now you're trying to come back as the Pope? Suck it.
They are under the impression they have big thoughts. Big thoughts. Like Meghan and Harry, I've listened to both of them talk. Garden variety retards. And nobody is a realer housewife than Meghan Markle, who married this ginger retard and took him out of his racist family so that they could live in Beverly Hills or wherever the fuck they live.
Harry and Meghan say they'd now like to split their time between spending your money in the UK and spending your money in Canada.
The conversation around Meghan Markle just exploded again after Sharon Osbourne openly accused her of turning private family drama into entertainment for profit. Sharon didn't hold back either. She went further and suggested that Meghan showed serious disrespect toward the late queen, which instantly lit up the debate around the royal fallout.
Curtsy, the thing she said about medieval times, her lunch with the Queen was like medieval times, which, as you know, is a Disney-type entertainment place for kids. And it's just so horribly disrespectful and just a whine.
And it didn't stop there. Even Bill Maher, who rarely jumps into royal drama, looked completely fed up with the whole situation.
You're complaining about your hard life and you're so privileged. It's just so weird.
It's ridiculous. I totally agree.
When he finally spoke about Meghan and Harry, the reaction in the room said everything. His takedown was so sharp that people watching could barely believe how direct it was. We'll get to that moment shortly, but first it's important to understand how Sharon's criticism started building piece by piece.
You know, they were given far too much importance because what do they...
Sharon kicked things off with a question that many people have quietly wondered but rarely hear asked on major media platforms. What exactly do they contribute? It sounds simple, but the point hit hard because it challenges the entire image around Meghan and Harry's public brand. Instead of creating something meaningful, critics say the focus always circles back to royal drama and personal complaints. That same feeling even showed up during the Golden Globes when comedian Joe Coy delivered a joke that perfectly summed up the perception of their business model.
Turns out Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. And that's just by Netflix.
In a room filled with actors, writers, and producers who actually create shows and films, the contrast was impossible to ignore. Then there's the Netflix deal. Around $100 million reportedly went into the partnership. And what did viewers get? One documentary series released in December 2022, and then a long stretch of silence. Critics argue the Sussexes collected a massive paycheck while delivering far less than expected. Kelly Osbourne pushed the criticism even further with a much more personal perspective. She pointed out that this pattern didn't just happen once. The Spotify deal signed in 2020 ended up being canceled by 2023 after only a small amount of content was produced, raising even more questions about the couple's media ventures.
You've been handed the world and every major contract, you had podcasts, you have all of this, and you didn't deliver because you...
There's nothing to deliver.
Yeah, because you don't have it. And that's okay. And I think they do have a right to privacy, but that doesn't seem to me what they're looking for.
Critics say the real issue is simple. Meghan and Harry keep landing massive media deals, yet the actual content output has been surprisingly thin. Some commentators argue that successful creators usually show constant creativity and strong work habits, but in this case, the results haven't matched the size of the contracts. Sharon Osbourne didn't stop at work ethic either. She also focused on how the couple present themselves in public. The constant hand-holding, the touching, the dramatic stage kisses.
Cuddly, lovey, holding hands, going everywhere together. It's so disingenuous. It's like, come on.
To some observers, it feels overly performative. When people compare that to William and Kate, who rarely show public affection during official events, the contrast becomes obvious. Sharon suggested it can sometimes look carefully staged, almost like a message meant to convince the audience that everything is perfect. Then comedian Nikki Glaser added her own blunt theory about Meghan's rise to global attention.
If she didn't marry him, she would be on The Bachelor this season, fighting for Prince. She would be Megan M. from Sherman Oaks barista. She just got lucky.
According to Nikki, Meghan wanted fame, and Harry gave her exactly that. She became one of the most talked about women in the world almost overnight, and then later expressed frustration about the attention. Critics also question the claim that she didn't know what royal life would be like. When people look back at her past, acting roles, blogging, social media promotion, they see someone who had already been chasing visibility and public recognition for years. Nikki pushed the theory even further with a sharp joke. She suggested that if Harry hadn't entered the picture, Meghan might have ended up on a reality show competing for attention with other contestants. In Nikki's view, the attraction wasn't only about Harry himself, but about the level of fame, status, and global platform that came with him. With all of that in mind, Sharon Osbourne delivered one of her most ominous predictions. Having spent decades around celebrity culture, she said the warning signs look familiar. Public controversies, growing distance from family members, and careers built mostly on personal drama.
It's going to end very, very badly, and I don't know why. It's like history repeating itself.
She's seen similar patterns with other public figures before, and those stories rarely end smoothly. Her next observation focused directly on Prince Harry. Sharon argued that some deeply personal family matters have been turned into public content.
All just craziness going around and around, and he's turned his life and the royal family's life into a soap opera.
His memoir, Spare, for example, brought private memories and conflicts into the spotlight, which critics say turned sensitive moments into material for public consumption. Beyond the victim narrative often discussed in interviews, Sharon also pointed to what she described as a lack of clear direction in their projects.
They're totally lost. You know, one minute they're making a cartoon, then they're doing a documentary on them, now they're saving the world. They just haven't found their path in life.
Several ventures launched with huge headlines but struggled to keep momentum. The Spotify audio deal ended after producing only limited content. The Netflix documentaries grabbed early attention, but didn't lead to many follow-up projects. Even the lifestyle brand American Riviera Orchard has faced repeated delays.
In California, we're just a regular couple living close to Oprah and far from the paparazzi.
Ooh.
But not too far.
To critics, it looks like constant experimentation, trying new ideas, new platforms, new projects, hoping that one of them finally sticks. And the contradictions have become noticeable enough that even British satirical shows have started poking fun at the whole situation.
If I want to play polo in my living room, who's gonna stop me?
Stop that!
Right.
One British puppet satire show even mocked the situation, highlighting what critics call a major contradiction. The skit joked about them living comfortably in Montecito, just minutes away from celebrities like Oprah, while still talking about wanting privacy. The punchline was simple but sharp. This doesn't look like hiding from attention. It looks like choosing a very specific kind of spotlight. The satire also took aim at Harry's behavior in a way that many viewers found surprisingly accurate. In the scene, he celebrates being free from royal rules like a teenager thrilled to escape strict house rules. The joke suggests that those royal protocols, as restrictive as they seemed, actually gave his life structure and direction. Another moment in the sketch leaned into a rumor critics often repeat. The scene implied that Meghan is the one making the big decisions while Harry simply follows along. The message wasn't subtle. According to the satire, Harry didn't escape authority, he just replaced one system of control with another.
You just think about her children. They have no family. They have their grandmother, Meghan's mum. That's it. There's no cousins, no aunts and uncles, no other grandparents. There's two little babies that have grown up that will never meet or know their cousins because they're not growing up with.
But Sharon Osbourne's most emotional observation didn't focus on media deals or public image at all. She expressed concern about how intense public conflicts between families can eventually affect children growing up in the spotlight. Her point was that when private disputes turn into global headlines, the younger generation can end up caught in the middle. Even with Sharon's blunt criticism, some commentators say Bill Maher delivered an even sharper reaction. His remarks about the couple's public image shocked many viewers because he summed up frustrations that critics have been repeating for years. But before that moment, Sharon's comments had already turned much more personal when she began discussing family relationships.
I haven't from day one been into the fact of, talking about private things that went on in the royal family when they were a part of it. And the thing is, it's just their point of view. We haven't had the other point of view.
Sharon argued that most of the public has only heard one side of the story. Interviews like the one with Oprah, the Netflix documentary, and Harry's memoir all present the couple's version of events, while the royal family has largely stayed silent. Because of that, some critics believe the narrative has been shaped without direct responses from the other side. Her argument was that every family experiences conflict, but most families don't broadcast those disputes to millions of viewers. In her view, there's a clear difference between discussing family struggles and turning private disputes into large entertainment projects. Then Sharon shared a deeply personal story from her own life that created a powerful comparison.
Bring it to the public. Nobody wants to know about it. Every family has problems. Keep it to yourself.
She explained that her father's business decisions once caused her serious financial losses, something that affected her in a very real way.
Should she go to her father? Yes, she should. I didn't talk to my father for 18 years. He used me in his companies and all of...
Despite that, she eventually chose to reconnect with him and care for him later in life. According to Sharon, she even supported him when he developed Alzheimer's, despite everything that had happened before.
Millions and millions I had to pay because my father got me in the crap. But the situation is, when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I went to him and took care of him because he's my...
Her story raised a difficult question for some listeners. If forgiveness was possible after serious financial harm, why has Meghan remained completely distant from her father after the controversy involving staged photos? The contrast became even more emotional when Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, spoke publicly about his situation.
Axe murderers in prison, their family comes to see them, right? I mean, I'm not an axe murderer. I made one dumb mistake and I'm never being forgiven.
In interviews, he described the pain of being completely cut off from his daughter and the sadness of not having contact with his grandchildren, which only added another intense layer to the already complicated family story.
You worry that you might never meet these two grandchildren?
July 18th, I'll be 77 years old. Most of the Markle men don't make it much past 80. So there's a good chance I might never see my grandchildren.
Some critics say the situation with Meghan's father feels unusually harsh. People often point out that even prisoners convicted of serious crimes are still allowed family visits. Yet Thomas Markle has reportedly had no contact with his daughter for years after the paparazzi photo incident. Supporters of Thomas argue that it was one mistake made under pressure, but the consequence turned into complete and permanent distance.
Have any advice for Harry?
Yeah, stop talking about the royals. Stop giving away all the secrets about the royals, and love your children and love your wife, but also love your grandmother and love your father.
And your father-in-law.
One of the most emotional moments came during an interview when Thomas was asked directly about Meghan. His answer stunned many viewers. Thomas explained that the last time he spoke with his daughter was just days before her royal wedding. At the time, he was lying in a hospital bed recovering from a heart attack. Since that moment, he says they have never spoken again. Life continued moving forward in a huge way after that. Meghan married Prince Harry, moved to the United States, and later welcomed 2 children. Yet according to Thomas, there has still been no personal contact since that hospital conversation. What made the moment especially painful for viewers was something Thomas said during the interview. Even after years of silence, he still openly said that he loves his daughter. At the same time, he admitted he isn't sure whether she still feels the same way toward him. Now at 77 years old, Thomas has spoken about worrying that he may never meet his grandchildren. He has mentioned that he often thinks about time passing and wonders if the distance between them will last for the rest of his life. Despite everything, Thomas surprisingly offered calm advice for Prince Harry during the interview. Instead of attacking him, he suggested that Harry should focus less on public conflicts with the royal family and more on building a peaceful life with his own children. That comment created a strange irony that many viewers noticed. The man who says he has been completely cut off is still talking about reconciliation, while the larger public story around the family continues to revolve around conflict and division. Then Meghan's half-brother, Thomas Markle Jr., added another perspective that intensified the debate even more.
Now they're using the kids as pawns. They've been using the kids for pawns for years. My father has already given up, and it says, I'm never going to meet those kids. King Charles is never going to meet those children, ever.
He claimed that the grandchildren have become part of the larger family dispute, saying access to them has become a sensitive and emotional issue for relatives. According to Thomas Jr., their father has started to lose hope that he will ever meet them. Hearing that from another family member made the situation sound even more tragic to some observers.
Dad specifically said one day that the way that she talked to my father, he knew it was over. He didn't know his daughter anymore because she talked down to him like he was nothing.
He also described changes in Meghan's behavior over time. Thomas Jr. claimed that at some point she began speaking to their father in a more distant and dismissive way, which in his view signaled a major shift in how she saw her own family after gaining global fame. By the time all of these stories from family members and Sharon Osbourne's criticism had circulated, the conversation had already become intense. And then Bill Maher stepped in with what many people consider one of the most direct commentaries on Meghan and Harry's entire post-royal life.
Want it both ways. You know, you can't be, these people were so mean to us and poor us, and we don't want all this attention, and then let me write a book about how much we don't want attention.
Bill Maher zeroed in on what many critics see as the biggest contradiction in this entire story. You can't claim you desperately want privacy while also building a media empire around personal stories, interviews, documentaries, and a memoir packed with private family moments. Maher argued that releasing a book like Spare, while also saying you want a quiet life, sends two completely different messages.
Just strike me as creatures of that generation. You know, you're just fragile. Just take a hint from the Queen, the recently departed.
Never complain, never explain, and rarely be heard speaking in public.
Every new interview or project only makes that contradiction louder. The more personal stories that get shared publicly, the harder it becomes for people to believe the argument that the goal is peace and privacy. Maher even connected the situation to a bigger cultural shift. In his view, it reflects a growing pattern where public figures constantly look for validation and agreement from audiences.
And I will not bend the knee and just go along with the nonsense. That's what's so annoying about them. The most of all, they insist that you go along with their nonsense and their insanity and their fragility.
That's why his comparison to Queen Elizabeth landed so strongly. For more than 70 years, the Queen lived under intense global scrutiny without publicly airing family conflicts. Meanwhile, Maher pointed out that Harry and Meghan seem to revisit their struggles again and again through interviews, documentaries, and media projects. Critics say the contrast becomes even more noticeable when you look at their lifestyle. They live in a luxury mansion, have major media deals worth millions, and still hold enormous global influence. Because of that, some observers feel the complaints about how difficult life is can sound disconnected from reality. Maher didn't sugarcoat his reaction either. He called the situation ridiculous and completely out of touch. According to him, the issue isn't simply telling their side of the story. The real problem appears when disagreement is treated as hostility. Maher argued that when people question the narrative, they're sometimes quickly labeled unfair or hateful. His refusal to automatically agree struck a chord with viewers who had already started feeling the same frustration. By this point, the criticism has come from every direction. Sharon Osbourne questioned their work ethic and public image. Members of the Markle family revealed painful personal stories. And Bill Maher summed up why many critics feel the couple have become symbols of a much larger cultural debate. The pattern critics describe keeps repeating. Broken family relationships, huge business deals with mixed results, and constant public discussions about personal conflicts. Over time, that cycle has left some audiences feeling exhausted by the ongoing drama. But the most emotional part of the story remains Thomas Markle's situation. At 77 years old, he has openly said he worries he may never meet his grandchildren. For many people watching from the outside, that possibility adds a deeply human and heartbreaking layer to the entire situation. When you compare that with Sharon Osbourne forgiving her own father despite serious financial harm, the contrast raises difficult questions about forgiveness and family loyalty. Maher's point about validation may be the most important takeaway. Telling your truth is one thing, but expecting everyone to agree with it is something very different. And when criticism is instantly dismissed, even people who once supported you can start pulling away. So the big question now is simple. Is there still a way for reconciliation, or have too many bridges already burned? What do you think about this situation? Could Meghan ever reconnect with her father before it's too late? Or is that relationship gone forever? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns of stories like this, make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for the next one.